Hi, third graders. Welcome back to your TV classroom. Today is Friday, January 15th. Happy Friday! I hope you had a good week this week. Before we get going with our math today, let's check in with our zone. Remember, like I said yesterday, it's really important that you're aware of how you're feeling because how you're feeling affects how you respond to others. I don't know if you've ever noticed, when I'm in a really happy mood, I tend to react really happy to things that happen, even if it might make me feel a little bit sad, I feel okay. But if I'm in a really sad mood, or I'm tired, or I'm cranky, and that same thing happens, I don't react the same way. So it's important to know how we're feeling so that we can manage our reactions to things that happen. So, what zone are you in today? I'm in the greenish yellow zone. I have a lot of work to do today, and I'm a little nervous I'm not going to get it done, but I'm still ready to learn and teach. You ready to go? All right, let's do Fact Fun Friday. What's one group of 48? Nope, not that. That's not going to work, is it? Oh, dear. Dun, dun, dun. What's one group of 48? It's 48. I like the times ones and the times zeros and the times tens. Those are my favorite math facts because they're really easy for me to remember. Two groups of 24. See how when I say two groups of 24, it feels a little less intimidating than 2 times 24? Because times doesn't really mean anything. That's why it feels more difficult. But two groups of 24 is 48. What about 4 groups of 12? It's also 48. Let's look at that. 2 groups of 24. Okay. Woo, I hit the wrong button. 2 groups of 24. So on the last slide, I had 24 and 24, and that made 48. But here it says 4 groups of 12. What was that, Pebble? Do you guys see it? How do I make 24 with equal groups? 12 and 12. And look, all of a sudden now we have 4 groups of 12. Multiplication is so cool because you can have it and double it to help you find things you don't know. Pretty awesome. 8 groups of 6. 8 groups of 6. What is it? This is one I memorize. I say it like this. 6 times 8 is 48. You do it with me. 6 times 8 is 48. But Mrs. Wally, it says 8 times 6, not 6 times 8. I know, but in multiplication, you can flip it. The other thing I can think about is 8 is made up of 2 4s. Do you know 6 times 4? It's 24. And 6 times 4 is 24. Wait a minute. This looks a lot like that. So what's 6 times 8? It's 48. Now I'm going to challenge your brain a little bit. Are you ready? Is this true? Is this expression true? Four times 12 equals 8 times 6. Well, what is 8 times 6? 48. What is 4 times 12? 48. Are they equivalent? Are they the same on both sides of the equation? It's a true expression. Whoa. That's stuff you're going to get into later on in the year and in 4th and 5th and 6th grade. I just wanted to give you a tiny peek into the future. Okay, 16 times 3. Okay. Well, What's 16 times 2? Well, what's 16 plus 16? 32. And what's 16 times 1? 16, wait a minute. 16 times 3 is 48. It's another problem with a product of 48. So could we do this? 4 times 12 equals 6 times 8 equals 16 times 3? Do they all equal 48? Yes. Pretty cool, huh? All right, let's get going. Today, we are demonstrating our understanding of patterns. This is a really short unit on patterns, but we talk about pattern all the time. So what two numbers come next? What's happening in this pattern? I'm going to give you 30 seconds, and I want you to decide what is the rule and what's going to come next. You think you got it? Is that what you said? What's the rule for this pattern? Is this a growing pattern or a shrinking pattern? This is a growing pattern, right? Shrinking patterns, no, it's not a growing pattern. Growing patterns, the numbers get larger. Shrinking patterns, the numbers get smaller. As we move forward in our pattern, are our numbers growing or shrinking? They're shrinking, so we're taking away or subtracting. How many do we subtract between these two? If you have 250, what do you have to do to get to 200? If you have $250, what do you have to do to get to $200? Spend 50, right? So we're going to take away 50. Now you have $200 at the mall. You go to the next store, and all of a sudden you only have $150 left. How much did you spend? 50. And then you go to the next store, and you buy something, and now you only have $100 left. How much did you spend? 50. And then you go to the next store, and you spend money, and now you only have $50 left. How much did you spend? 50.
You're a busy shopper.
Then you go to the you go to the final store. You buy your final things, and you have no money left. How much did you spend? 50. So what is our rule? What rule is this pattern following? Every subsequent number, or every next number, is 50 less. Each number, this is shorthand for number, is 50 less. What would be next in our pattern? Does anyone know? You can go less than 0. It would be negative 50. Something to think about. Let's take a look. Izzy noticed a pattern in the addition table shown below. One diagonal that had all 4s in it. Do you see it? The diagonal with all 4s. Fill in the chart below the table. I put it next to the table so I could make it bigger. To show the addends. Explain how the sum 4 stays the same while the addends change in each line of the addition table. So if the addend is 0, what does the other addend have to be in order for the sum to be 4? Yeah, 4. Okay. What addend goes with 3 to make 4? Well, here's 3. What addend? Look, here's 3 right here. What addend goes here? Where am I going to look? Yeah, I'm going to look all the way over here. What addend? 1. Okay. What about, here's my 4 with 2. Where am I going to look? Let me erase these ones because it's visually distracting. I'm at 2 and I went to 4. So now I need to find the other addend. What do? Yeah, I go to the left. What's my answer? 2. Okay. Now Now I'm saying, oh, I know it's 3. So I travel until I get to the 4 because my sum is 4. And what's my other addend? How do I find it? Yeah, it looks straight up. There it is. What's my other addend? 1. Now I'm at 4. Whoop. What addend do I need to put with 4 to get 4? 0. You might be able to fill out this table without needing an addition chart. You might know all the ways to make 4. This is a different way of showing what we did in kindergarten, first, second grade, where we were finding all the ways to make a number. This is a more sophisticated way of showing that. This is the next step up. So we did all of that work in those grade levels so that when you looked at this addition chart and this table, your brain knew exactly what to do. So you could start to see the patterns in the numbers so the math could start to come off the page. And use those patterns to help you solve things you don't know. We use patterns all the time in math. So I challenge you, as you're doing math, to not just be finding the answer, but also be looking for a pattern or a rule as to why that works. Okay? Jace counts 250 by 5s. Annabelle counts to 50 by 10s. What numbers are both of them going to say and why? I'm going to give you 2 minutes to work this out on your whiteboard. I don't want to know all the numbers they're going to say. I want to know what are the numbers that both Jace and Annabelle are going to say. Jace is counting by 5s. Annabelle is counting by 10s. What numbers are they going to say that are the same? They're counting to 50. You ready? See if you can figure it out. Go. Don't show my whiteboard, Mr. Kevin.
Okay.
Did you figure it out? All right, Mr. Kevin, go ahead and show my whiteboard. Take a look at my whiteboard. What do you notice? Whoop. There we go. I drew lines to represent the numbers they are both going to say. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. But just knowing the answer isn't good enough. Why? What's the pattern? Why is it that they are both going to say those numbers? Have some private think time for a minute. Why is it that it's the 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 that they're going to say the same? What's the pattern that tells you that? Oh. Okay, so when you have 2 groups of 5, it makes a group of 10. So if Jace is counting by 5s, every other number he says is going to be a 10? Yeah. And Annabelle's just counting by 10, so she's going to land on those 10s every single time. Who says more numbers? Jace. Right? So he's like 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50. Where Annabelle is just 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. Which way would you rather count by? I prefer the 10s. Booth says an odd factor, we know this from yesterday. You want to think about it. Do you remember we did even times odd, and we got even. And then we did even times even, and we got even. And then we did odd times odd, and we got, okay, good. You remember our pattern? Okay. Booth says that an odd factor times an odd factor will always equal an even product. Is he correct? Is he correct? No. Why not? Well, if I have 5 groups of 5, hang on, I'm going to show you. Actually, I'm going to do 3 groups of 5 to save time. I've got this even group here, I've got this even group here, and I've got this here, and I still got 1 left. Right? Or I can say, well, let's split this number in half. Okay, so I've got 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh dear. That's not going to work, is it? Because then I still have this one left. Okay, let's try a different one. What if we do 3 times 7? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, well, I've got 7, 8, 9, 10. So there's a group of 10. And I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's my group of. When I have 2 factors that are odd, I will always have 1 left over because the numbers are odd and you are not adding just 2. It's not like when we're adding 2 odd numbers and we get an even number because we're putting 2 groups of odd together so we have the 2 left over. We're actually counting an odd amount of groups, which means there's always going to be an odd amount left. So is Booth correct? No, Booth is incorrect. In fact, it's the only time you're going to have an odd product is when you have 2 odd factors. Otherwise, you're going to have even products. And they're the ones that are hardest to memorize, remember? Memorize all your odd factors times your odd factors, and you will make memorizing your factors so much easier. Okay. Look at the multiplication table below. Actually, I'm going to pause there because I want you to do this one on your own. This is on page 282. The work we just did was on page 281 in your workbook. I want you to try page 282 on your own. If you can't find the pattern, you need to let your teacher know and have a conversation with your teacher. Okay? If this is making sense, awesome. If not, now is the time to reach out and say, I'm still not quite understanding this. I need a little bit more help. Let me tell you a secret. I'm going to school right now. I'm getting my master's degree. And lately, there's been some work that I've been doing, and it's been really hard. And I haven't really understood it. And instead of asking for help, I just sat there and wasted a whole day of work worrying about the fact that I didn't know how to do it. And then I went, Mrs. Wally, what do you tell students to do if they don't understand? You tell them to ask for help. You have a professor, go ask for help. And guess what I did? I went and asked for help. And guess what? Now I understand it. So it is not a bad thing to ask for help. I asked for help in my master's, which means you can ask for help with your math work. So if this is not making sense, please reach out for help to your teacher. You do not need to sit at home and not understand. That's why you have a teacher, okay? Or you can always email me here at the TV Classroom. Now, today, did we explain our reasoning? Yep. Did we explain why the pattern is highlighted? Yes. Did we talk about patterns all day? We sure did. Before you go, you need to make sure that you have your ELA packet, your pencil, and your learning buddy for your time with Miss Osland today. Have a great break. Take care of your needs. Have fun learning with Miss Osland, and I will see you next week. Bye, third graders.
Hello, my name is Denise, and I'm a violinist with the Northwest Sinfonietta. I'm here for us to share a moment of breathing and listening to music together today. Let's start by getting centered by taking a few breaths together. We're going to inhale to a count of 4, and then we're going to hold our breath for 4 counts, and then we'll exhale to a count of 4. Get comfortable, relax your shoulders, maybe roll your head side to side once or twice, and let's inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now hold your breath. 1, 2, 3, 4, and exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's do that one more time. This time I won't count aloud. We can all count in our heads. And if you like, go ahead and close your eyes. Ready? Inhale. Hold your breath. And exhale. Well done. I'm going to play a piece called Fairy Tales for you by the composer Ignatius Sancho. He lived from 1729 to 1780. If you think of fairy tales, what comes to your mind? Maybe magical creatures or talking animals or kids off having adventures. What feelings get stirred up in you by those stories? And how would you express those feelings in music? Do you think the music would be slow and quiet with long singing tones? Or maybe it would be light and fast, like sounds of laughter and dancing? Listen to this piece and notice what kind of feeling Ignatius Sancho expresses with his music. What do you think of that music? It sounds pretty light and happy. You might think that Mr. Sancho really liked fairy tales and that maybe he also had a good sense of humor and was a happy person to be able to write a piece like that. It's amazing to me to know that Mr. Sancho was born in 1729 on a slave ship off the coast of Africa. He faced the world alone because he lost his parents when he was young. Despite being enslaved, he taught himself to read and write and to play music. He spoke out against the slave trade and wrote essays, plays, poetry, and music. Here's another beautiful piece by Ignatius Sancho. It's called Minuet Number 15. Ignatius Sancho was eventually freed from enslavement and went on to start a business, a successful grocery store, and to become the first Black person of African origin to vote in England. He was also the first Black composer to have his music published. I hope you've enjoyed listening to Ignatius Sancho's music with me and to taking a few breaths together.
Hi, third graders. Welcome back from your break. Excellent job gathering your materials and ready to go for our lesson, continuing learning about biographies. You will remember our 3 personal standards that we adhere to when we come together every day and also when we're not together, just in our daily lives. We show respect, we make good decisions, and we solve problems. We have been learning all about biographies. You'll remember biographies are books that are, or texts that are written about someone's life. And we read a lot of biographies as examples, and now we are drafting our own biography. We learned that when we think about the subject or the person that we've chosen to write our biography about, we think about who are the people around or near to that person, their friends or their family, who may have impacted them as a person. And we thought about quotes that we could use from those people or from our subject themselves. And you started drafting your lead or the intro to your biography, making sure that it's engaging and gives the reader a sense of how you feel about the person and the characteristics that the person or the subject have in your opinion. Today we're going to learn, again, we learned this as we were reading biographies, but today we're going to think about it as a writer, that biographies are organized in chronological order. That means the events are in the order that they really happened. They go from beginning to end. That way, it's really organized and easier for our readers to read. Otherwise, if we're jumping around in time, it's really hard for our brains to keep track of what is happening. Now, the example that we learned about the chronological order in a text was in this book written by David A. Adler and Michael S. Adler about Cesar Chavez. And we used a graphic organizer to break down the structure of the text in the order in which it happened. Now, today, I want you to find this graphic organizer, which is page 23. And we're going to use this today to outline, which means take notes in the order that we're going to write them, of our biography. And we're going to practice it today with one of our mentor texts that we've already read. And then your independent work is to do it again with your own biography. You're going to write down the events in the order that they happened. So get this document, page 23, in front of you and your pencil, and get ready to read and write with me. Okay, we are going to fill in this graphic organizer using some events in the book Elizabeth Leads the Way, the story of Elizabeth Cady Stanton. And we're going to talk about the remarkable woman that she was in the 1800s, because time matters when we're talking about chronological or time order. So this is the author's introduction. And we know from the beginning that Elizabeth was a fighter. So let's read this to remind ourselves. What would you do if someone told you you can't be what you want to be because you were a girl, or you are a girl? What would you do if someone told you your vote doesn't count? Your voice doesn't matter because you are a girl? Would you ask why? Would you talk back? Would you fight for your rights? Elizabeth did. Now, this is another good example of having a strong lead or intro that gets your reader's attention and lets us know what our author, Tanya Lee Stone, felt, because she says, would you fight back for your rights? Elizabeth did. So right there, it tells us that Tanya Lee Stone thought that Elizabeth Cady Stanton was a fighter. So we're going to continue reading, thinking about the events that happened and the order in which they happened. All of these things used to be true back when Elizabeth Cady was a girl. And all of these things might still be true today as if Elizabeth hadn't led the way. She was only 4 years old the first time she heard someone, a woman, say life was better for boys. The woman had come to visit Elizabeth's new baby sister. What a pity it is she's a girl. Now there's our example of using a quotation. How would anyone look at a little baby and feel sad? What could be wrong about being a girl? She was 13 years old when her father, Judge Katie, told a woman whose husband had died that the farm she had spent her whole life working on would be taken from her. Without a husband, the law stated, nothing belonged to her. Elizabeth was horrified by this information. Elizabeth was horrified by this unfairness. She said that the law should be out of every book. Judge Katie told her that wouldn't change anything. The law was still the law, and only men were allowed to change laws. Preposterous, she decided. Right then and there, she decided right then and there that she could do anything any boy could do. Now, I think this is a really important idea to start with because it tells what Elizabeth learned early on in her life as a 4-year-old and a 13-year-old. And so now I'm going to jot down on our graphic organizer some details or examples that support this big idea. So let's see, look back at page 3 and 4, and the part ending with preposterous. Now on the next line it says, she decided right then and there that she could do anything any boy could do. I think that is the big idea that we're going to include in our body. So if you look at page 23, it says, first important date or event. That's where we're going to write that big idea. And I actually forgot to write the name of my subject. So I'm going to write Elizabeth Cady Stanton. And the first, it's not a date, but it's an event, something early on in your subject's life, is Elizabeth learned that girls and women weren't treated fairly. That's a big idea. So on your graphic organizer, I want you to write that as well. And we're going to think back about what are some of the important supporting details that led up to this big idea. What were some of the little things? So let's think. When Elizabeth was 4 years old, she learned or heard someone say that life was better for boys. That's a supporting detail. What are some other supporting details that led to Elizabeth learning that girls and women weren't treated fairly? Take some more think time. Turn and tell your learning buddy what you're thinking. Rafa, the other supporting detail that I'm thinking about is that when Elizabeth was 13, she learned that a woman wasn't entitled to anything. Any money that she made or anything that belonged to her really belonged to her husband. Now you go ahead and write whatever your supporting detail was that you thought of. What else are you thinking? What else happened? Elizabeth learned, her dad told her that only men could change laws. Remember that really big word, preposterous, that came up? Elizabeth thought these laws were preposterous, and our illustrator made that word really big in the text. So I think that's an important word to include. Now let's go back and make sure that all of our important supporting details really support our first important event, which is Elizabeth learned that girls and women weren't treated fairly. Are these all examples of girls and women not being treated fairly? Let's double check. At 4 years old, she learned life was better for boys. At 13, Elizabeth learned women weren't entitled to money or property. That's not fair. Her dad told her only men could change laws. And Elizabeth thought these laws were preposterous. Yep. All right, let's keep reading and see what other big ideas come out and the supporting details that come from those. Preposterous. She decided right then and there that she could do anything any boy could do. She jumped over high hurdles on horseback. She rafted across a raging river. She won a prize for being the best in Greek studies. Her father was proud, but he worried about his strong-spirited, rule-breaking daughter. Ah, you should have been a boy. He knew how much easier her life would be, but Elizabeth wasn't interested in easy. At 16, since colleges would not let girls in, Elizabeth begged her father to send her to a girls' school continuing her learning. So while most young ladies were getting married, washing dishes, doing laundry, and having babies, Elizabeth was studying religion, math, science, French, and writing. So I think all of these different events are adding up to that Elizabeth decided she could do anything a boy could do. I think that's our next important event. And I want to make sure that we're paying close attention that it says going in time or chronological order. This big event comes after this one because we're paying close attention to how biographers write in chronological order. So the next important, it's not a date, it's an event, is that Elizabeth decided now, what are the important supporting details? Take some think time. Turn and tell your learning buddy what you're thinking about the important supporting details that support the big event that Elizabeth decided she could do anything boys could do. Rafa, Elizabeth begged her father to go to school like boys. She studied religion, she studied math, French, writing. She jumped high hurdles on horseback. She rafted across a raging river. These are all things that previously thought only boys could do. Now, on your graphic organizer, you're going to list the important supporting details that you thought of from Elizabeth Leads the Way. Go ahead. Don't worry about spelling right now. Just get your ideas down on paper. All right, even if you didn't have a chance to finish, you can continue working on this during your independent reading and writing time. Now, I want to remind you that your independent work today is going to be to complete pages 23 and 24. There is more, so if yours is double-sided, it's on the back. Continue writing the big important events or dates and the supporting details of your biography for your subject, and make really sure that they are in chronological or time order, because that's what we're paying close attention to today. So you should come up with 4 outlines of paragraphs for 4 different paragraphs. Now, these outlines don't need to be full, complete paragraphs yet. This is just an outline, so don't worry about that part yet. And then coming up, we're also going to work on a closing. So today we learned that biographies are organized in chronological or time order. So that's your success criteria. Make sure yours is written in time order today. You're also going to continue your independent reading of biographies. And when you're doing that, pay close attention to how the author put the events in order. And pay close attention to, are you really understanding what you're reading, either a word or the entire text itself? And if you're not, go back into this graphic organizer or this chart when meaning breaks down and use these strategies to help you. Also pay close attention to, are you actually focused while you're reading? And if you're not, it's okay to stop, refer to this chart to use a strategy, take a break, and then come back to it later. You're going to continue adding to your reading log so that your teacher knows what you're working on, and send this to your teacher so that they have a really good idea of what you're working on and how you're rebuilding your independent reading stamina after winter break. Now is time for our affirmation. This is the time when we get to say positive, uplifting things about ourselves before we go off to do our work. So think about, what is something that you could say about yourself to build yourself up, to be confident, to get your work done today. Take some think time. I think for me, what I'm going to need to remind myself of today is I am responsible. I know we did this one earlier this week, but responsible means I get my work done, I do what I say I'm going to do, and I follow through. So I am responsible. If that is one that works for you, saying that you're responsible, then go ahead and say that with me now. If you have your own, say that one now too. Here we go. I am responsible. Thank you so much for reading and writing and thinking with me today. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you next time in our TV classroom. Bye.
Hey kids, we want to see your work. Just send your pictures and your stories to TV Classroom, 601 South 8th Street, Tacoma, Washington, 98405.